Hi, welcome to my video on the review of Polynomials 2. This is the second half. The first half I did on a video just before this. And because it's a review, then you can treat it as a quiz or an assignment where you can mark, etc. Notice the total is out of 51. So when you get your final score, add it up, put it over 51, divide 51 into this number with your pen or your calculator. Change it to a decimal, move the decimal 2 places to the right, and you'll have a percent, which is the same as multiplying the decimal by 100, you get your percent. Notice I have 5 pages, so if you want to pause the video and write down what's on this page, and have on the 4 other pages, do the answers to the questions as I do them. So, page 2 of 5, pause your video, work all these questions out, and when you, as I do them, put the score over here on the right side and add them up, and you've got a total of 13. Do that for each page, and in the end, go back and put it over the 51. Here I go. Express each answer as a polynomial in descending order. So we have number ones. We're going to simplify all of these. So we have a multiplication, two monomials and a binomial. So let's multiply the two monomials first. So that's a negative 10x squared. Because I have 3 multiplications, remember we did 3 times 2 times 5. We multiply, there's 3 multiplications, so 3 times 2 is 6, times 5 is 30. So you only do 2 of the multiplications and the third one after. You cannot multiply the 3 by the 2 and the 5. So I multiplied the 2 monomials. Now I'm going to multiply negative 10x squared by x, negative 10x cubed. 2 plus 1 is 3, you add the exponents, and a negative 60x squared. Give yourself a score of 2 if you have it right. And in B, I have a monomial times 2 binomials. I prefer to multiply the two binomials first. And I multiply these by FOIL, F-O-I-L. First is 2x squared. Outside is a negative 10x. And the inside is plus 1x or x. And 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. So that's the first outside, inside, last, multiplying by FOIL. And what you should do is make sure that is simplified, because if you simplify it, what happens? It makes the next multiplication, you have less multiplication to do. So negative 10 and 1, that's a 1 understood, that's a negative 9. Now I'll multiply the 3x by the 2x squared, 6x cubed. Again, 1 plus 2 is 3. Negative 27x squared, that's a 1 and that's a 1, so that's a square. And a negative 15x. So I multiplied 3x by the 2x squared, by the negative 9x, and by the negative 5. And there's my trinomial in descending order. Notice 3, 2, 1. That's a 1 understood. In C, I have an x squared. I'm squaring the x minus 4 squared, so I'll write it down twice. Now that I wrote it down twice, as a binomial written down twice, I will do the FOIL because I have 2 binomials. First, x times x. Outside, x times negative 4. Negative 4 times x. And that's the inside, and that's the last 16. And we should simplify that multiplication. That gives me negative 8x minus 16. I add up my like terms. Now I multiply x squared by each of these. So x squared times x squared, x4. X squared times negative 8x, negative 8x cubed. X squared times 16, 16x squared. Done. And if you have part of this right, notice I'm showing every step. And if I made a mistake and I didn't have the right answer, I'd be able to go back through and find out where my mistakes was. Showing your workings helps you to find your mistakes if you make mistakes. D, multiply a binomial by a trinomial. So what we do is take the x and multiply by each one of these. X, that's 3 times. Then you take the negative 2 and multiply by each of these. And if you want to add on the opposite, go ahead. So x times 3x squared is 3x cubed. X times negative 5x, negative 5x squared. X times plus 4 is plus 4x. Now I'll take the negative 2 and multiply by each of these to distribute it through. Negative 2 times 3x squared, negative 6x squared. Negative 2 times negative 5x, plus 10x. Negative 2 times plus 4, negative 8. So notice now I'm going to add these, but I'll put them in descending order. So the x cubed goes first, then the x squareds, then the x's, and the constant is always on the right. Notice the descending order, 3x cubed. I'm going to add these because they're both like terms. That's a square, that's a negative 11, and 10 and 4 is 14x minus 8. Descending order. And again, 3 marks. Part marks if you get part way through and make an error. E, I have a binomial times a binomial times a binomial. Again, what I do, I always, if there's binomials, I always multiply the 2 binomials on my right. Just a habit I do. X times x, x squared. X times plus 2, plus 2x. Negative 1 times x, negative x. Negative 1 times plus 2, negative 2. And I multiplied it by FOIL, and now I'll simplify the inside. So 2, that's a minus 1. So 2 subtract 1 is 1. There's the 1 understood. There's the 1 understood. Now I multiply as up here. I'll multiply the x by the 3 of these, and I'll multiply the 3 by the 3 of these. Here I go. So x times x squared, x cubed, and x times x, x squared, and then x times negative 2, negative 2x. Now I'll multiply the 3 by each of these. 3 times x squared, 3x squared. 3 times x, plus 3x. 3 times negative 2, negative 6. And we have to go descending order, group terms, x cubed. Squares go next. The x's go next. And then the constant is always on the right. Notice I'm moving these around, but I do not change the signs. And there's the x cubed. 1 plus 3, that's a 1 understood. That's 4x squared. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. And again, the 1 is understood. Negative 6. Again, 3 marks. Judge for yourself where you made an error. If you did make an error, 3. Total up the score, and what do you get out of 13? Here we go. Next page. Practice. Practice means pause the video and work all of these out to see if you're going to get the right answer. This time we're trying to find a quotient and a remainder. So when I get the answers, I'll put them in here. So this is x plus 2 is divided into 4x minus 6. So you put the x plus 2 first and the 4x minus 6 inside. That's the divisor, that's the dividend. X into 4x goes 4. So the 4 is constant, goes above the 6. Multiply back 4x times x, 4x. 4 times 2, plus 8. Draw a line. That's a plus, you make it a minus. That's a plus, you make it a minus. Now you have plus 4 minus 4, cancels out. And a minus 6 minus 8 is a minus 14. So we have a quotient of 4 with a remainder of negative 14. You won't see this division done too much, but I use it as to start off, because you got to do what? Dividing a binomial into a trinomial. Most people would do the binomials and our trinomials divisions. So here, B, we have x minus 2 being divided into, and notice they're in descending order. Remind you of that. I don't have to change anything. They're already. That's an x and a constant. That's x squared and x and a constant. So it's a 2, 1. Remember, that's 1 as x to the 0, so that's why the constant is on the right. So x into x squared goes x. So we put the x above the x, keep the like terms grouped up and down as when you're doing place value. Multiply back x times x, x squared, x times negative 2, negative 2x. Draw a line. Now you're subtracting, so that plus becomes a minus, and that minus becomes a plus. So now you're looking at positive 1, negative 1, cancels out. Negative 7, oops, that negative, see? I gotta always check. That's a plus, becomes a minus. That's a minus, becomes a plus. Even though I said plus, I put a minus down. So I gotta be very conscious. So the minus becomes a plus, so this is the plus 2. Negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5x. Bring down your plus 1. So x into negative 5x is a negative 5. And again, constant above the constant. Negative 5 times x, negative 5x. Negative 5 times negative 2, plus 10. And the minus becomes a plus. The plus becomes a minus. Now what you're looking at is what's in this circle as the true signs. Negative 5 plus 5 cancels out. Plus 1 minus 10, minus 9. So my quotient is x minus 5, because that's the answer to the division. And the remainder is negative 9. Okay, C, we have a binomial and a trinomial. I'm going to put this one down first, but it has to go in descending order. 2x minus 3. Descending order here, the x cubed goes first. Then the x squared. And then the x, but there's no x, so we had to put in 0x. If a term is missing, we put a 0 in front of that x. And the 7 is constant at the end. So notice 3, 2, 1, 0. Everything is okay. Let's divide. 2x into 6x cubed gives you 3x squared. The x squared goes above the x squared. Multiply back. 3x squared times 2x, 6x cubed. 3x squared times negative 3, negative 9x squared. Draw a line. The plus becomes a minus, and the minus becomes a plus. So plus 6x minus 6x cancels out. That's a negative 13. And see again, what happened? I did it again. The plus becomes a minus, and the minus becomes a plus. So be careful. Don't follow me. If I make an error, then apologize for it, because I will make errors. It's just in my background. So let's see. Yep, the minus becomes a plus, and that's negative 4. Bring down your next term, 0x. 2 into negative 4x is squared is negative 2x. So 2x into negative 4x squared is negative 2x. Negative 2x times 2x is negative 4x squared. Negative 2x times negative 3 is a plus 6x. Here we go. Now the minus becomes the plus. The plus becomes a minus. So I changed my signs. Look, I did it again. I'm saying one thing and writing down another. So the minus becomes a plus. The plus becomes a minus. Done correctly. Cancels out. Negative 4 plus 4. That's 0 minus 6. That's a negative 6. And 2x into negative 6x is a negative 3. Multiply back. Negative 6x. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a plus 9. Now, let's see if I can do this right. The minus becomes a plus. The plus becomes a minus. Done. Negative 6 plus 6 cancels out. Plus 7 minus 9, negative 2. So my quotient this time is a trinomial of 3x squared minus 2x minus 3. And my remainder is negative 2. Okay, now we have this long division. Looks long. We have a trinomial, descending order. I had to put the x squared first, then the x, and then the constant. Descending order. If I don't do that, you will not get the division done right. Now I had to put this in descending order. So the first term is 2x cubed. Then I have an x squared. Then I have a negative 6x and a minus 5. So this is okay because it's 3, 2, 1, 0. But I had to change this one. Now I divide x squared into 2x cubed. That's 2x. Multiply back. 2x times x squared is 2x cubed. 2x times 4x is a plus 8x squared. Draw a line. Now, here I go. That's a plus, minus. plus, minus. So that's a plus 2, minus 2 cancels out. That's a plus 1, minus 8, that's a negative 7x squared. So notice, when you're subtracting, you change the signs to the opposite. And when you do, then you just add them up. And a negative 7, negative x squared divided by into x squared divided by negative 7x squared is a negative 7. Let's multiply. Oh, I forgot to bring down to 6x. And what happens? Okay, here we go. Negative 7 times that is negative 7x squared. And a negative 7 times negative 4 is a negative 28x. Not only I had to bring down one of them, but I had to bring down them all of these down, because 7 times that, negative 2, is a plus 14. So I got 3 terms here, so I need 3 there in order to subtract. So I had to bring 2 of these down in this case. And let's see if everything's okay. So that plus, that minus becomes a plus. Done. That minus becomes a plus. Done. That plus becomes a minus. So I got them all changed. Minus, plus, minus, plus, plus, minus. Now add them up. Negative 7 plus 7 cancels. Plus 6 plus 28 is a plus 34x. Negative 5, negative 14 is negative 19. And the quotient is on the top here. Notice the 7, when I divided into it, went above, 7 didn't go above the x, the 7 went above the constant term. So I get a 2x quotient, 2x minus 7 quotient, and the remainder is 34x minus 19. So that's reviewing your division. There's a whole video on division of binomials and polynomials, etc., etc. So that's just a little review. Page 4 of 5. Okay. Says practice, pause the video, see if you work the answers out. Express x plus 4 in front of 6 over x plus 1 as a fraction with a polynomial in numerator and denominators. So what this reminds me of 2 and 3 over 5. So you would go 2 times 5 plus 3 all over 5. So that will give you 13. 10 plus 3 is 13 over 5. So this is like a mixed numeral. So what I'm doing here, to change this to a fraction, I'm going to multiply x plus 4 by x minus 1 and add on 6, the same as I did here in this case. Nope. Multiply. I get x squared minus x plus 4x minus 4 plus 6. So I did the FOIL on this because it's 2 binomials. First, outside, inside, last. Check it out. There it is. And I add up my like terms. I get an x squared plus 3x plus 2. So that's the polynomial all over. Notice that's when I multiply all that polynomial, when I do the multiplication, that goes over your denominator. So there it is. You multiply these two binomials and add the 6. So I did all that work here. When I simplified it, then I put that on the top, all over x minus 1. Now, if you want to check, you can turn around and take that polynomial, which is 3x, or x squared plus 3x plus 2. If you divide x minus 1 into this polynomial, you will get x plus 4 up here, and you will get a remainder of 6 on the bottom, if you wish to check it out. Let's continue, but I had to express it as a fraction, so there's the workings. So this polynomial over your denominator, same as up here. Just check it out. Number 4, simplify these. Excuse me. And we have PEMDAS, order of operations. Very important to be able to work your algebra. And we have to work the inside of this, so we have to do the inside because it's the P stands for brackets or parentheses. So let's do the inside. So on the inside, I have to multiply these two and multiply these two, because the order of, even on the inside, I still have to obey working out in this order. So when I multiply these, because there's no powers on the inside, you can't add these because they're on like terms. You can't add x and 2 because they're on like. So you multiply 3 by x, 3x. 3 by 5, 15. Negative 5 times x, negative 5x. Negative 5 times 2, negative 10. And I have to simplify those. So that's 3x minus 5x plus 15 minus 10. Now I have negative x squared plus 5. Sorry, negative x plus 5. So I multiply the inside and I add them up. Now I have the square. So there's a negative x squared plus 5 and negative x squared plus 5. When you square, you multiply by itself and then you use FOIL. First is a 4x squared. Outside is negative 10x. Inside, negative 10x. And last is a plus 25. And when you add that up, the 4x squared stays. That's a negative 20x plus 25. So that's fully simplified. Give yourself 3 marks if you're right. But you simplify the inside first, because once that's done, then you look for any exponents. But there's no exponents in here. So inside you have to add this up. You have to simplify the inside of this fully before you square. B, PEMDAS again. P-E-M-D-A-S. Let's see. Can't add them because they're on like, so that's okay. I have to work out this exponent here. So this exponent means it's x plus 6 times x plus 6. So let's leave it like that and write this down. And what happens, this is the multiplication. So I'm going to multiply these two, and then I have to divide. So this addition stays. So this division means that I will put the 2x below each one of these. Because when you have like 2 terms on the top and 1 on the bottom term is divided into both. In this case, I got 3 terms here, so this 2x is divided into 3 of these. You can't divide the 2x into just this one. It has to go into all of them. And now we're going to multiply. We're going to add last. Watch. Here's what I'm going to do. Group them like this. I'm going to multiply these two, which is first, outside, inside, last. Then I'm going to divide. So 6 divided by 2 is 3x squared. When you divide, you subtract. 3 subtract 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And x squared divided by x is just x, because 2 take away 1 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is negative 5, and the x's cancel. Okay, because x divided by x, it's like 10 divided by 10, or 8 divided by 8, the x's cancel. And I have to simplify the inside of this. That's x squared plus 12x plus 36. Add on, and I'm ready to add this one on. And when you add, you don't change your signs. I could write all them down, but I will, because I'm adding, I will not change my signs. 3x squared plus x plus 5. Adding, don't change. Group your like terms together. X squared plus 3x squared plus 12x, plus x plus 36 minus 5. So there they are, grouped by like terms, and I didn't change my signs. So that's a 1 plus 3, so that's a 4x squared. 12 plus 1, that's a 1 there, so that's a 13. And 36 subtract 5 is 31. So notice I had to square this first and work it out. I have to divide here, work it out, and then I add whatever I get to this one, add on to this, and that's what I've shown you here. C, 2 times that trinomial, and then subtract here. So what we're going to do, we're going to multiply this. Let's look at PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S again. We cannot add or subtract these, and that's simplified, and that's simplified, so that's okay. I don't have any exponents, so I have to multiply and divide first and then add or subtract last. So I'll do this and then I'm going to do this. So see that minus sign? There it is. So when I multiply this, I'm going to keep that over there. And when I multiply these two, I'll put it in here. So notice I got a subtraction with double set of brackets. So 2 times negative x squared, 2 times 6x, 2 times negative 1, done. And I have the binomial times the binomial, so I'll do a FOIL first, outside, inside, last. This is already simplified, so I can't just leave it there. And I'm going to simplify the inside of this one. So notice I multiply these two, but I have to simplify this before I subtract. So that's a 2x squared minus x minus 3. 2 subtract 3 is negative 1. Now, because I'm subtracting, I can put a 1 there and multiply that. Or I can subtract. So that's a negative 2x squared plus 12x minus 2. When you're subtracting, where you put a negative 1 here, you get negative 2x squared plus x plus 3. And group your like terms. You get, I'm putting the like terms together. So my squares go together, so there's a negative 4x squared. The x's go together, 12 plus 1 is 13. Remember, that's a 1. And negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So there it is, fully simplified. Give yourself some score. Again, you multiply these two, you multiply these two, and you subtract after. That's the key. And when you subtract, you add on the opposite. Add up your total at a 12. See what you got. And, oops, you turn this over. Final page, page 5 out of 5. Now we have a little manipulating here to find, juggling to find the areas and the volumes, etc., etc. I want to find the area of this figure. It's all, notice it's all rectangles, all little boxes in the corners. There's a rectangle making a, let's see, find the area. So I need, it's divided into two pieces. So I can split it this way, along here. So I get this piece as a rectangle, and this larger one is a rectangle. So what happens is that I know what this side is, but I don't know what this piece is. These two are the same. So since this larger one is 5x plus 6, and this one over here is 4x plus 3, that means that this small piece here must be the difference between these two. So that's 4x plus 3. That's 4x plus 3 right there. So what do I add on? If I subtract these two, I'll get what this one is. So that's an x. 5x subtract 4x is x. 6 subtract 3 is plus 3. So if you add this 4x plus 3 to x plus 3, you get 5x plus 6. So you have to subtract this length from this long length here and get this one. Now we have a rectangle, which is the small one here is x plus 3, oops, times x plus 1. So that's that small one. So let's say that's the small area. And this is the large area. And the large area, let's put the large area up here. Large area is length times width. So we get 3x plus 5 times 4x plus 3. Again, we have two rectangles. And the key here was to get this, the length of this side right here. Because these two sides are the same length. This side is the same as this. So the area is length times width, and the area of the big one is length times width. So multiply FOIL first, outside, inside, last. So x times x, x squared. X times 1, 1x. 3 times x, 3x. 3 times 1, 3. Add up the like terms. Done. 1x and 3x is 4x. And we got a FOIL up here too. So that's a 12x squared plus 9x plus 20x plus 15. First is the 12x squared. Outside is 9x. inside is 20x, last is 15. Add up your like terms, and I add the x's up to get 29. And the total area is the sum of these two. And without writing it down, I'm going to write S for sum. S is the sum of the areas. And without writing down, I'm going to take this one and add on this one. So that's 13. Take the 29x and add the 4x, and that's 33x. And 15 plus 3 is 18. So that saves time. I know I'm going to add the large one to the small one. So this is the final answer. Give yourself 3 marks if you did it right. And this one could be divided this way if you want, down this way. So you could have this area here along with this long one. So that means you'll have to take this length and subtract this one if you wish to deal with, different areas. Number 6, find the volume. The volume is the length times the width times the height. And we could say the length is 6, the width is x plus 4, and the height, what's going up, is x minus 1. So we will only multiply 2 of these at the one time, but I prefer to multiply the 2 binomials on the right side first. X times x, x squared, minus x plus 4x minus 4. First, x squared. Outside, negative x. Inside, negative 4x. Last, negative 4. And you simplify that because it'll make it easier. So, negative 1 plus 4 is 3. Now multiply by 6. 6x squared plus 18x minus 24. 6 times x. 6 times 3x. 6 times 4, 24. And there's your polynomial representing the volume of that box. Now number 7 is based on the pastel triangle, and we have a power. So let's see what we have. We want to find, so we have, remember we have a 1 and a 1 and a 1. A 1, 1 plus 1 is 2 with a 1. 1 and 1 and 2 makes 3. 2 and 1 makes 3 with a 1. Then we go with a 1 again. So 1 plus 3 is 4. 3 plus 3 is 6. 3 plus 1 is 4 with a 1. And that's the 4th power right there. First, that's a 0 power there, nothing. That's a plus b to the 1 power, which gives you 1s. That's a plus b to the 1 power, to the 0 power, which gives you only a 1. And that's a plus b squared. And if you want to keep going, that's a 1 right there. That's a add 5, add 10, add 10, add 5. So I need that to go down here. But anyway, because it's the 4th power, it starts with a to the 4. And the a's go down. The a go down by 1, and the b goes up by 1. So the a goes down by 1, and the b goes up. The a goes down by 1, and the b goes up. And the last term is b to the 4th. So 4, notice 4, 3, 2, 1, none. And the b is 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the 4th power. 1 plus 3 is 4th power. 2 and 2 is 4th power. 1 and 3 is the 4th power and 4th power. And because it's a 4th, we're looking at this row right here. Because this is the 1 power, square power, cube, and 4. So I got a 1, 4, 6, 4. 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. And up here, go back, I'm going to add 2x plus negative 3. So that means that a is 2x, because that's a plus b, and b is negative 3. So that's a and that's b, but remember, you got subtractions. It's best to have a plus, because that's a plus, have a plus there. So that's a is 2x, b is negative 3. So a is 2x to the 4th. A is 2x, and that's a cube. B is negative 3 plus 6. Here we go. A squared is 2x squared. B is negative 3 squared. And we got a 4. So A is 2x. B is negative 3 cubed. B is negative 3. So just take your time, put them in. Now we have to work them out. 2 to the 4th is 16. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. X to the 4th. And what I do is I do my numbers here. I got to be careful because that's an 8 times 4 is 32 times 3 is 96, but is negative. Let's make it negative. And x, 2x, if the x is cubed, is x cubed. And we got to be careful. Let's see, we got a 4, we got a 9, and we got a 6. So 36 times 9, 6 9s are 54. You got to carry your 5, 27, so it's 32. Check my multiplication out, and that's x squared. So it's 4, so it's a 24 times, oops, 20, my mistake, 24 times 9. 4 9s are 36. You got to carry your 3. It's 216. That's a 216. And this one, we have, let's see, we got a 4, and we got a 2, and we got negative 3 cubed is negative 27. So we have a negative, and we have what? 27 times 8. 7 8s are 56. You got to carry your 5. 16 and 5 is 216. 216. Coincidence? And that's an x. And that's positive 81. So check out to see if my multiplication is right. Might be wrong, but I have a 4, 3, 2, 1, and just be careful. And it says find the third term of this one. So that's, let's go back there. This is fully simplified now, descending order. Check out those multiplications for me. Could be wrong. And the third one. So this is the fifth one. So the third one is A. This is the fifth power, so this starts with A to the 5. So it's A 4 B1. Then it's A 3 B squared. And then it's A squared B cubed. Then it's A B4. And then it's B5. Let's see. The A's are going down by 1. Yep. None there. And the B's start to go up. 1, 2, 3. Yep. And every one of them has a power of 5. 4 and 1, 5 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 4. And then we look back here, and we have a 1, a 5, 10, 10, 5, and a 1. There it is. 1, 5, 10, 10, 5, 1. And we have A, that's B. So we want the third term. 1, 2, we want this term right here. So that gives me 10. A is 3x, and I'm cubing it. B is 2, and I'm squaring it. So what does that give me? That gives me a 10. 3 cubed is 27, and 4. So I get 270 times 4. 0, 4 7s are 28, and you got to carry it through. I get 1,080, and that's x cubed. So there's the third term. I didn't want you to work it all out like up here, but the third term. That's the third term of this. So if you took 3x plus 2 and multiplied it by itself 5 times and take all that work, this is a short way, but they call Pascal's triangle, the powers of a binomial. If you wanted to learn it, it's nice to know, and you will need it sometime in the future. Now, since you have all this done, add up your scores here on the page, get your total, and when you got that done, all the pages added up, you go back to your first page and say, oh, what score did I get? Put it over 51, divide with a calculator or with your pencil, convert it to decimal, move your decimal 2 places, and you'll have your score on your Polynomials review part 2. And we also had Polynomials part 1 earlier, in the earlier video. And if you like my video, then click the button, like button, the subscribe button. If you're not a subscriber, click the notification bell because there's more videos coming. And write a comment if you wish. And www is my math website, mathfullyexplained.com. 3 sections. Me, about my degrees and teaching experience. The videos section talks about the teaching strategy you're going to use to help you learn your math. And the content is the topics and the number of videos online. That's on my YouTube channel. And what's in black font is already there. What's in red font will be there in the near future. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed your video. Bye-bye.